overcome evil deeds without depending on God. Now, this is a very big problem. Because all the other religions depend on God, seeking some sort of forgiveness. But Buddhism never taught anything about forgiveness of sins or the evil deeds. It is easy for us to depend on or to create some ideas in our mind that there must be somebody who controls everything and who is responsible for everything. And our duty is to obey and pray. After that, we may get some sort of forgiveness to get rid of the effects of certain bad deeds or the sins that we have committed. Now, this is a common belief. So when you study the teachings of the Buddha in various discourses, he has mentioned that there is nobody in this world or in any part of the world where the so-called supernatural living beings who can forgive or wash away the effects of the evil deeds that we have committed. We can refer to Dhammika and various other discourses. In simple language, he says, Attana katang kamma, Attana sankilissati. Attana akatang kamma, Attana visuddhi. That means, the good and bad deeds that we have performed during our lifetime, been done by us with intention, and we are responsible for that. Our knowledge or our understanding is important earlier for us to avoid such evil deeds and to do certain good deeds. But after committing evils, the religions, especially Buddhism, never support the idea of asking the forgiveness of the sins that we have committed. If there is somebody who can forgive our sins, some people say indirectly he encourages us to commit sins because we believe there is somebody to forgive us. We never take the responsibility. So if we can understand that we are solely responsible for our behavior, our way of thinking, our way of doing things, then we know how to take precaution, protection, avoid, without committing evil deeds. Even then, the nature of our mind is such that very easily mind can be influenced through various internal and external provocation, disturbances and temptation. Then we won't be able to control our own mind because we have not trained the mind earlier. That is why training is important. Untrained mind is the main cause of all our bad things. So the method introduced by the Buddha for us to train this mind is called meditation. He never encouraged us to go and worship or pray and to perform various kinds of religious rites and rituals. But those practices are important for various other reasons. But these things never train our mind, never purify our mind. People to go and pray and worship him or anybody else. But there are certain mistakes we commit. Many of them are not sinful. Use that word, very easy to understand. They are mistakes. At that time, we have not created either hatred or jealousy or anger or any evil thoughts in our mind. Without creating such evil thought, we can make a lot of mistakes. Create misunderstanding, hurt others' feelings, disturb others physically or mentally. These are the things that we can eradicate by asking forgiveness, because they are not sins. Now take for instance, you come to know that some people have created some misunderstanding or enmity because of your way of talking or certain words that you have used or certain things that you have done. But you never had such ideas in your mind to disturb or to create any problem. When you come to know, then you can go and meet that person, talk to him friendly, then you can, please forgive me. After that, no more. And this method is very common. And it is not under that category of sins. So whatever we have committed with bad thought, which we regard as bad karma, these karmas are so strong, and another person cannot purify that person's mind to forgive or to eradicate the bad karmic effect. Then what are we going to do? We know very well that we are not perfect. We make mistakes. We do commit evil or bad deeds under the influence of our selfishness, or desire, or ignorance, or our anger. To clarify this, in the same book, Dhammika, there is another saying, Yocha Buddhe Pamaditva Vajjhasona Pamadjati Soiman Lokam Abhate Abhamutto Vajjandima. People who have committed certain evil deeds due to their ignorance or misunderstanding or due to various other reasons, by realizing that these things are wrong, create more miseries and problems and worries and suffering, then decide not to repeat, not to commit such evil deeds anymore. Now this is the technique, this is the method. By realizing. But that is not enough. Simply by stopping the bad deeds that you have committed, not repeat, still you are not saved. Then, from that day onwards, there are two things you have to do. Here, the Buddha did not recommend for us to go and pray to anyone, or to go and perform various kind of religious rites and rituals to avoid the effects of the bad deeds that we have done, or to torture your physical body. So this method also still common in certain countries. Even in Malaysia also there are some people who believe this. By suffering or torturing their physical body, such as burning or starving without taking food, that they will be able to get rid of certain bad deeds or the bad karmas they have committed. And this method was condemned by the Buddha. In the first sermon, first discourse, he mentioned this. He says, if you want to lead a proper religious life, or righteous way of life, or noble life, there are two things for you to avoid. What are those two things? Not to indulge too much. You have to carry on your way of life with some sort of contentment, satisfaction. In other words, not to become slaves to your own senses or sensual pleasure. Not to be crazy for worldly or sensual pleasure. And this is one aspect. But you can lead a moderate life. You can live as gentlemen, not as slaves to any religion. You can lead a noble life. But there must be a limit. And the other aspect is not to torture your physical body, thinking that you will be able to get rid of all the evil deeds that you have committed, and through these practices, one day, that you can find out your final salvation also. Now this is the first advice the Buddha has given us. Therefore, we never believe that by torturing our physical body that we can become holy or we can wash away the sins committed by us. Now that is not the Buddhist attitude. And there are certain religious groups, especially in India, they believe that by observing complete silence without talking for a certain period or throughout their life, that they will be able to get rid of all their evil deeds that they have committed through their tongue. So that is the punishment. Buddhism never recognized this method because mouth is not responsible for that. Mind is responsible. If you want to punish torture, so you must punish your mind. The meditation is a real punishment to our mind. How? When we meditate, we arrest our mind without allowing this mind to run here and there to grasp various objects, to create temptation or to entertain or to disturb the mind. Because the mind naturally likes to catch all sort of external objects through the senses, five senses. But when we meditate, the mind cannot do it. So mind is under house arrest now. Cannot run here. That is the punishment. This is a training period. So we train and train and tame and tame. After that we culture that mind. Then the development takes place. Otherwise there is no development in that mind. So mental development means a strengthening the mental energy to cultivate certain good ideas which never appeared in our mind, and to maintain certain good thoughts which appeared in the mind. There are two things here. Sometimes very good ideas appear and disappear next moment, we forget. So when once we develop our mind, we can maintain such good thoughts. Again, by using that mental energy, we try to guard our mind without allowing such evil thoughts to appear. When we come to know certain evil thoughts, just like jealousy or anger or temptation for certain things, then immediately we can eradicate such thoughts from the mind. If the mind is weak, we cannot do it. We entertain, we nurture it, we develop further such thoughts in our mind. We never observe whether these things are good or bad. By neglecting all these methods introduced by the Buddha, actually what we are doing as Buddhist practitioners, just try to follow certain beliefs and traditions just to satisfy our emotions, our worldly needs. But religion is not for that much. There are so many other methods for us to adapt to gain our worldly satisfaction. Religion is for something else. And what is that? To train that mind. Because there is no another method to train the mind. Science also cannot train the mind. By learning everything under the sun and moon, we cannot train the mind. We create more confusion, or we can become skeptics, stubbornness, egoism. These are the things we develop in the mind. We become very proud. But when once we train that mind, such thoughts we never develop in the mind. Because we know these things are wrong. So how can we depend on another person, either the Buddha or God or any other supernatural living beings in this world, who can train our mind? We have never heard so far. So if we want to train our mind, we have to struggle for that. We have to work for that. A God or the Buddha cannot come and inject something into our mind to train. But by following certain advice, guidelines given by the Buddha, because he has given all the necessary advice. Through his own experience, he has done experience and realized, and this is the method. So there is no place for any supernatural living being or God to do anything with our good and bad karma. They cannot handle this. They have no rights or authority, or it is impossible for them to do any change. If I have committed sins, I am responsible. Reaction or the effect or the consequences are natural. Action itself creates the effect. There is no another person to handle this. But by realizing this situation, we act wisely. So just now I mentioned how to do that. First thing, we have to stop certain bad things that we have done, not to repeat. Second step, try to do more and more good deeds. That means meritorious deeds. Not enough. But still, the uncertainty of our mind, that dangerous situation remains. We can do a lot of good deeds, but the mind is not reliable. At any moment, the mind can change the mental attitude. That mind is still subjected to external and internal influence. Then change the mental attitude. We have noticed this situation. Some people who we have regarded as very religious, well educated, and very cultured and understanding people, under certain circumstances, how they have changed their mental attitude, their mentality, their way of life. How many changes have taken place in their mind? Sometimes they become worse than ordinary people, uneducated, irreligious people. This situation is very common. That is the uncertainty of the mind. So what is happening at the moment? We behave as cultured, religious, or good people by controlling our weaknesses. But all the weaknesses still remain in the mind. We keep them under control. When circumstances arise, again, the sediments which remains in the mind stir. Then we behave as an ordinary human beings at that time. Forget our education, forget our religious background, forget our culture. Then can become very dangerous, very fierce, very cruel, very cunning, very selfish. Later, regret. Now let us take certain stories. Many people who have violated, created so many bad deeds. Later, by realizing that this way of life is wrong, they decided to change their way of life. Emperor Ashoka in India, who lived 226 years, I think, after the Buddha. He was a very wicked ruler who invaded so many other kingdoms and occupied by massacring thousands and thousands of innocent human beings. Later, a realization appeared in his mind. The nature of his cruelty, selfishness, and the enormous miseries and sufferings and atrocity, disaster that he had created. He contemplated very deeply. So when he was thinking, one day he saw a young monk, and he was sitting in his palace, very calm and serene, pleasing to his eyes. He was not a Buddhist. He was watching. Then asked somebody to go and call him. Then asked him to sit down. They had a talk. Then asked him to tell him, actually, what is this way of life? And what is this religion? Then he told him, I have not learned very much. My knowledge is very, very limited. Only one stanza. This stanza also you can find in Dhammika. He said, I know only this much. Appamado amatapada, pamado manchuno pada. Appamatta namiyanti, ye pamatta yatha mata. I know only this much. Because this is the language they used at that time. Meaning, appamado amatapada. One who acts diligently, mindfully, wisely, he can find out immortality. Amata never dies. Pamado manchuno. One who neglects all his duties and lead a very lazy, useless life by neglecting all the important duties. He had to face death again and again. Appamatta namiyanti. One who never neglects all his duties and who leads a righteous, reasonable, harmless life, never dies. But one who neglects all these duties always face this miserable death. Then the king started to think very deeply. He analyzed this saying, philosophized. He realized, time has come for me to change my way of life. Then he has given order to stop the war and return the kingdoms that he had occupied. Then became a Buddhist. Not only just to follow the Buddha's teaching, he knew that it is his duty to introduce this religion, this peace, message of the Buddha. India is such a big country. People in other part of the country still never heard anything about the Buddha or Buddhism. So he has sent missionaries to introduce this peace message. But he is the only ruler in that country who has given a strict order not to disturb the followers of other religions. He has given full support to all the other existing religions. If you happen to visit Sarnath, Benares, India, Asoka pillar, this is 2,300 years old. Asoka Asoka pillar, stone. Certain words engraved there. The instruction given by him for all the Buddhist missionaries who go out to introduce the message of the Buddha. You can see the skill there. He says, when you go out to introduce Buddhism, please remember, not to disturb, not to ridicule, not to accuse, not to condemn the other existing religion. If you do so, remember, you disgrace your own religion. See how deep and how reasonable is his understanding. So he has dedicated whole life to promote Buddhism, completely change his way of life. Later he got this name, Dhamma Sutta. Dharma Asoka. Asoka means one who never worries. Dharma Asoka. Formerly no Dharma, only Asoka. Before that his name was Chanda Asoka. Chanda means cruel. Cruel Asoka. People address him as cruel Asoka. After becoming a Buddhist, he became Dharma Asoka. So he had complete confidence that he has dedicated his whole life to train people, to culture people, to civilize people, to lead a religious life. All these are meritorious deeds. The evil deeds that he has committed earlier, from the Buddhist point of view, still we cannot say that the Buddha has forgiven him or washed away all his sins just because he has become a Buddhist. Buddhism cannot say like that. It is wrong. Then how are we going to define? He has done more meritorious deeds. In the end, he also became a monk. And he died as a monk. Now this is the Buddhist attitude. Now which is more meaningful, justifiable, reasonable? Think for a while. After committing all the evils and bad deeds, go and worship and pray and ask forgiveness, or stop all the bad deeds and do more and more good deeds in service to others, which way is more reasonable and justifiable and practical. Anyone can go and pray after committing evil. But how many people can stop their evil deeds and do more and more good deeds? Let us take another story. Angulimala, a robber, a bandit. He was misled by his teacher. He was a very understanding, very intelligent young boy. Misled by his teacher and asked him to go and kill 1,000 human beings. He agreed and he has done this. More than 1,000 he has killed. So the Buddha was there. So he wanted to go and see him, to find out what is wrong with him. So, after listening to the Buddha, he realized that his way of life is wrong. He was misled by others and he wanted to become one of his followers. So he followed the Buddha and became a monk. After that he used his full effort, day and night, to lead a very noble life by maintaining all the good qualities and virtues and observing all the precepts. In the end, he has attained sainthood or he become an arhat. A person who has murdered more than 1,000 human beings become an arhat or saint. Is it possible? But we have to analyze this kind of a story very carefully. In his case, he has cultivated his religious way of life during his previous birth. But at that particular life, he was misled by his teacher. Just to respect his teacher, he agreed, but not for his own benefit. He did not develop cruelty, selfishness, or anger, or any evil thought in his mind. But even then, no one can kill another living being without creating one of these evil thoughts. Whatever may be the purpose, at that moment, he used that mentality. Therefore, it is not just what we call justifiable or no one can forgive. No one can say there is nothing wrong. Since he has cultivated his religious background, way of life, earlier, and again, after his renunciation, cultivated his way of life, developed his mind, he would manage to eradicate evil, the roots of the evil thoughts on the mind. That is how he had the chance to become an arhat or a saint. Otherwise, an ordinary man who had not prepared his religious way of life, background, earlier, not so easy to jump at once to become a saint or an arhat. Here, still there is a chance. Although we have committed certain bad deeds or sins or bad karma, and certain hidden good karmas remains in our unconscious mind. After cultivating more and more good karmas again within this lifetime, the previous karmas and the present karmas jointly support us. Then we will be able to overcome the effect of the bad karmas or the evil deeds that we have committed. Now this is the present. But if that person remains within the cycle of birth and death in samsara, still there is no guarantee. The bad effects of the evil deeds that he has committed never disturb, because still he has not eradicated the germs, karmic germs that he has deposited in the mind, waiting for a chance. But if he knows how to handle his way of life without committing more and more bad deeds, more and more bad karma, and if he can continue his way of life by doing more and more good deeds and accumulating more and more good karma, and still the effects of certain bad things they have committed earlier, no chance to affect, no chance to catch him, to attack. Then one day, he will be able to attain arahanta just like Angulimal. Then, stop rebirth. If there is no more rebirth for this person, then all the good and bad karmas, both that he has accumulated automatically extinguish. Now you have how to forgive your own sins. So you are your Savior, and you are the only one who can forgive your sins. And this is the method. So what is the method? By stopping all your bad deeds, by cultivating your way of life, by doing more and more good deeds from that day onward, then you will become a noble person. Now that is the answer. How can we overcome evil deeds without depending on God?